Welcome back. This is where the series takes a turn. We've spent 15 parts building local AI from the command line, and now in Phase 4 we put a real face on it. Open WebUI is a ChatGPT-style browser interface that sits on top of your local Ollama, multi-user, persistent chats, RAG baked in. One Docker run and your script becomes something you'd actually demo to your team. So why bother with a UI at all? Because the CLI is a wall. Your manager, your salesperson, your designer, they're never going to run Python rag.p, but they will click send in a browser. A UI also gives you the things a terminal can't: persistent multi-turn conversations you can scroll back through, real logins for each teammate, and the same local-first privacy story as raw Ollama, just with the polish of a hosted SaaS. And the project we're going to use for that is Open WebUI, free, self-hosted, over 100,000 stars on GitHub, and genuinely polished. Out of the box, you get streaming ChatGPT-style chat with proper markdown and code highlighting, full conversation history you can search and export, and a model dropdown that switches between Llama 3.1, Qwen 2.5, Phi, and Mistral on the fly. But the parts that matter for a team are on the right: real user management with roles, drag-and-drop RAG over your own PDFs, and saved system prompt personas, basically Modelfiles with a UI. Before we install anything, let's be clear about where this thing actually sits. Open WebUI doesn't replace Ollama, it sits in front of it. Your browser talks to Open WebUI running in a container on port 8080, and Open WebUI talks to Ollama on localhost 1.434, which is still the runtime loading your models. That separation is deliberate. You can swap the chat layer or swap the backend without breaking the other half. With that architecture in mind, the install is genuinely one Docker command. apt get Docker. If you don't have it, then Docker run with a few flags worth knowing. Port 3000 maps to the container's 8080. The named volume persists your users and chat history across restarts, and add host gives the container a route back to Ollama on the host. Restart always means it comes back after a reboot. 90 seconds later, you open localhost 3000 and you're in. Now here's the gotcha on first boot. Whoever signs up first becomes the admin automatically. Everyone after that is a regular user, so if your testing flows and you accidentally register yourself in a logged-in browser, you've just burned your admin slot. Open a private window first, claim the admin account deliberately with your real credentials, then invite the team in afterwards. With admin secured, point Open WebUI at your existing Ollama. Head into Settings, Admin Panel, Connections, Ollama API, and use http:// host.docker.internal and 1434. That's the magic host name that lets the container reach the host. Hit Verify and Open WebUI scans your library, Llama 3.1, Qwen 2.5. The nomic embedder we'll use for RAG in Part 11, PHI 3. Every model you've already pulled is now available to the whole team. No re-downloads. Here's where it gets fun for non-technical teammates. Drag a PDF into the chat, and Open WebUI parses it, chunks it at 500 tokens, embeds it with the model you picked earlier, and lets anyone ask questions in plain English, with citations back to the source pages. It's not as tunable as the custom pipeline we'll build in parts 13 through 15, but for casual users who just want answers from a contract or a spec, zero config RAG wins every time. Remember the model files we wrote by hand back in Part 8? Open WebUI gives you the same power through Workspace Models Create, but as a form anyone on the team can fill out. Here's a server ops buddy, Llama 3.1.8b, as the base, a tight system prompt locking it to Linux commands with system, temperature dropped to 0.2 for deterministic output, and 2 runbooks attached as permanent knowledge. Save it once and the whole team picks it from the model dropdown like any other model. Once that server ops buddy exists, you'll want the rest of the team using it. Head to the admin panel, open users, and you've got 3 roles to work with. Admin gets the keys to everything. Keep that to yourself and maybe 1 backup. Most teammates land in user. They can chat, upload docs, use the personas you built, but can't touch system settings. And here's the safety net. Flip on manual approval in settings, and every new sign-up arrives as pending, locked out until you promote them. No surprise accounts, no leaked access. Before we wrap the build phase, let's save you a few hours of debugging. 5 things bite almost everyone the first time. If the UI says no models found, the container can't see Ollama. Add host.docker.internal as a host gateway. First response feels sluggish? That's just the model loading from disk. It's snappy after that. Lost your chats on restart means you skip the data volume. Other machines can't reach port 3000. Check your firewall. And if RAG indexing crawls, swap the default embedder for nomic embed text through Ollama. With the gotchas out of the way, let's settle a question I get a lot. Does Open WebUI replace the Python scripts we wrote earlier in the series? No, and you shouldn't want it to. The WebUI is where humans live, ad hoc chats, dragging in a PDF, comparing models, demoing to a stakeholder who'd rather not see a terminal. Your scripts are where machines live, cron jobs indexing documents, CI bots summarizing pull requests, custom RAG embedded in your own apps. Same Ollama underneath, 2 completely different jobs. So here's your homework for tonight. Spin up the container and create your admin account. That's maybe 10 minutes. Then drag in a PDF you've been meaning to read and fire off 5 questions, so you know firsthand whether the built-in RAG is good enough for your use case. Build one persona tuned to your actual job, a DevOps buddy, a writing critic, whatever, and commit to using it daily. And then the big one, send the URL to one teammate. Their first 5 questions will tell you more about what your team wants from local AI than any roadmap ever will. Before we close out, let's pull the threads together. The biggest shift this part isn't technical, it's that a browser UI changes who in your org can actually touch local AI. The mechanics are almost embarrassingly simple. One Docker command, 90 seconds, and you've got a front end talking to the same Ollama backend you've been driving from the terminal all series. Personas are just model files wearing nicer clothes, and crucially, this isn't an either-or. Your scripts still own cron and CI, while Open WebUI owns humans, exploration, and demos. This is your Save This Page slide. Left column covers the container side, the run command, the host networking flag for reaching Ollama, the internal address, and the workspace and RAG paths you'll actually click. Right column is the operational stuff, the volume mount so you don't lose your data, the URL, the admin rule for first sign-up, connections, user management, and Docker logs when something refuses to boot. Screenshot it, bookmark it, paste it in your team wiki. And that's 16 down. The UI is shipped, your team can log in, RAG is wired up, phase 4 is real. But notice what's still missing. The model can talk, but it can't do. Next time we cross that line, tool calling, where your LLM stops describing actions and starts taking them. Calculators, APIs, your own functions. This is where chatbots become agents. See you in part 17.